If you've ever wondered whether your child's mouth breathing, poor sleep, unclear speech, or constant frustration could mean something deeper, this episode is for you. Today, I'm talking with Luba Patlakh, a speech-language pathologist, about tongue ties, therapy, when parents should seek help, and what real support looks like, whether surgery is involved or not. We also talk about practical communication strategies and how families can advocate for the care their children truly need. This conversation is eye-opening and hopeful and full of practical next steps for parents. So I'm glad you're here, and I think you will be glad too. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back to the language of play. So some of you have emailed me and asked, how did the language of play do in the awards? Well, and if some of you are asking, that means many of you wonder. Here we go. Literally just 10 minutes ago, while I was recording the episode, I got the message, you won! So Jennifer Hensel is the founder of Women Podcasters Awards, and she shared the winners that are recognized. And she says, not only for the quality of their shows, but for the communities they build, the stories they share, and the difference they make through their voices. So I am so honored to share with you that the language of play was selected as the winner of the Lifestyle Podcast category in Women Podcasters Awards. This is an International People's Choice Award celebrating women creators worldwide. So that is super exciting. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing the podcast, encouraging me, and being part of this community. And thank you to those of you that voted. Truly, this award belongs to all of us because this podcast exists for families, connection, and helping children thrive through communication and play. If you'd like to watch the awards announcement, I will put the link in the show notes. And we have even more exciting news. You might remember that the language of play was also nominated a finalist for the Authority Awards, and the winners of those awards have not been announced yet. But by next week, I should have an update on that too. What a fun spring this has been. I received an email from the Authority Awards telling me that I was selected in the top 5 finalists for the Voice of Authority Award. And honestly, I'm incredibly honored to be included in that group because there's hundreds of podcasters considered and there are 12 Authority Awards given overall. So becoming a finalist in my category was really a huge honor. The Voice of Authority Award recognizes leaders who amplify their message with authenticity, clarity, and power. People who speak truth that resonates and inspires action. Sounds so good. The selection committee evaluates nominees based on consistent, authentic messaging, audience engagement, and positive influence. So, whether I win or not, I am deeply grateful and encouraged that the language of play is being recognized in this way. If you've listened for any length of time, you do know that that is my heart. So, thank you for being part of this journey with me. And now, speaking of exciting things, I have an offer for you. And here it is. If you have ever worried about your child's speech, which, of course, if you're listening, you probably are. Maybe people have trouble understanding your children. Maybe they leave sounds off of words, mix sounds up, or get frustrated when they're trying to communicate. I want you to know that there are answers, and helping your child might be more doable than you think. So many parents are just told, wait and see. They'll grow out of it. And sometimes that's true. But in the meantime, they're watching their children struggle to be understood, and that can feel frustrating, confusing, and discouraging. With that, this summer, I'm opening a supportive parent group designed especially for families with children 3 to 6 years old who want help with speech sound skills. And what makes this group different is that I'm not just going to give you information, but rather I'm going to help you, moms and dads, caregivers, learn what to actually do in everyday life that is going to change your kids' speech patterns. So instead of wondering, how do I help? You can begin to understand which small changes to make that make the biggest difference for speech clarity and communication. I'll show you how to support your child naturally during the moments you have already with them, so your child gets more opportunities to grow without adding more pressure to your already busy family life. I'm excited about this group because it is rooted in speech and language development, brain science, connection, and play-based learning. And I know this works. And we know that children learn best through safe, connected relationships and meaningful interactions. So this group is a place to feel supported while learning exactly what is the next most effective step to do. And honestly, one of the biggest goals for parents is to leave feeling more confident and less alone. You don't need a diagnosis or referral or any special training to join. You just need a desire to help your child communicate with greater confidence and ease. So to make it summer friendly, we're going to do this on Zoom every other Monday, and the recordings will also be available to you in case you can't attend. In addition, you'll be able to submit a question and have those questions answered in that recording too, even if you're not there. So if that sounds like something that would be supportive to you or your family, I would love to support you and have you join. So please follow the link in the show notes for that also. It'll be right under my name and my signature line. All right, after such fun announcements, now let's get into this episode with Luba. Luba Patlakh is a passionate speech-language pathologist and founder of Kidology, a pediatric practice offering speech, occupational, physical, and ABA therapy. With over 15 years of experience, she empowers families to help kids reach meaningful milestones. As a mom of 3, Luba understands the challenges and joys of parenting, and her compassionate approach has earned her national recognition. Welcome, Luba, to the Language of Play. I am so glad to see you here. I'm super glad to have you on for this unique topic we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Something that parents ask a lot about. It's common, but people don't commonly know much. So thank you for taking time to share your expertise with us.
I'm excited to be here and meet you. You're awesome, and looking forward to spreading my dust of info and knowledge on everyone today.
I love it. All right, well, let's just dive right in. Tell the audience about tongue tie. That's what parents tend to say. That's the phrasing. And we're going to talk about that. Go ahead and give terminology, background, and open the topic. Go ahead.
So I was very interested in this topic, actually. As you mentioned, thank you. I have three children, and my older two didn't run into these oral breathing issues, but my little guy, who's going to be 4 this November, I noticed that he was constantly clogged up. He would sleep with his open mouth all the time, and it concerned me. I would hear him snoring, and when you're so little, I understand if you're ill or you have allergies, which he happens to have. He's an eczema boy. He's got allergies to gluten and dairy and dust. So I was watching him closer, much closer. And I started to notice things that alarmed me, like this, like literally at night, this little person, he just like his mouth is wide open. And it worries me because that's not a typical posture of how you should look.
Right.
If you're not eating or speaking, we should always have a closed lip seal. So it looks just shut. Your mouth is just shut. And today, unfortunately, people are so uninformed. What led me to get my certification on top of being a speech language pathologist in myofunction therapy, and that's what it's called when you're speaking about tongue tie and open mouth posture.
Okay, so let's take that apart.
Yes.
Myofunction therapy. Myo
Yes.
meaning muscle, function is how your mouth works.
Yes.
But yet myofunction doesn't necessarily mean oral unless we add oral to it, right?
You're right.
Any more to add to that for parents to understand?
No, you did a really good job of covering that. So it is the education and functionality of the musculature of your mouth. Right.
Perfect.
And so I started to study it, and I noticed more and more that all of the children who were coming to Kidology's clinic had similar traits to my son and my nephew, who also was struggling. So what I noticed immediately about these children with open mouth posture is if they have a tongue tie and they have a medical situation where their frenum is too short, that's the tongue tie, then they can't physically put their tongue in the proper position to get the full lip seal, which means they're going to have an open mouth. So imagine, and you can try yourself, the proper positioning of your mouth and in your tongue, if you close your eyes and you're like, okay, where do I put my tongue all the time when I'm quiet? So why don't you try it? Let's see. Where is your tongue?
It's on the top.
It's on the top. And the people who are struggling will answer you, oh, my tongue is on the bottom. That's a block of your airway. That's the first concern, red light, that you might be going towards sleep apnea, which is a huge thing you want to avoid. If you've gone to an apnea, your airway is constricted. It's just a very dangerous place, especially for a child whose passages are so small. So that's why I decided to start studying it, because I started to worry about my own child, and I started to learn techniques about how to train a person, if they do have that open oral posture, to functionally close it and begin to breathe the proper way, which is through your nose. Everybody should practice nasal breathing. This is a big deal in biohacking. It's funny, I'm really interested in that lately. But they speak a lot about that. And just generally, human beings are supposed to breathe through their nose. Athletes, they'll always train you when you're running or when you're in something that you need to fill your passages with oxygen through your nose. And the only way to get the proper nitric oxide is through bringing air through your nose, because you're cutting yourself short with your mouth.
This is so much information. This is fabulous.
So much information.
Let's unpack it a little bit. I know. I see your enthusiasm and I absolutely love it. So let's kind of go backwards a little bit. Now, when you're talking about mouth posture, for families that don't know that terminology, we're talking about the resting position of your mouth. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so when we're talking about resting position of the mouth, we're talking while they're reading books, while they're watching TV, while they're sleeping. Just the resting position of their mouth is the oral posture. And what you're talking about is that oral posture, or the relaxing position, should be that their lips are shut, not pursed, not tight, relaxed and shut. And that causes the breathing to be out the nose. Now, I have a grandson with this issue too, and we've been digging into this. And so I was super, super glad to have you on, because I knew that I would learn more about this. Now, when you talk about nitric oxide, this is an important brain thing, an important gas, and important for many systems in your body.
So many
To dive
systems.
into what is nitrous
Yes.
yeah, you take it and talk about what it
No, you
is
got it.
and why it's important for us.
So when you're breathing in through your mouth, which happens, you're obtaining smaller amounts of regular oxygen. Oxygen is the air we breathe. You can't live without it. You have to have oxygen. So it's the typical airflow. I breathe in and out. That's a singular situation.
Mhm.
However, to really fill your lungs and have enough breath for language, for speaking, for proper, daily movement, you want to fill up with nitric oxide. So when you close your mouth and breathe through your nose, the nitric oxide fills your lungs, and that is the type of oxygen. It's actually a gas that's coming from the oxygen, but when it goes through your nasal passages, through your nose hair, it breaks up differently in your body, and it fills your blood cells and it opens the lungs to absorb more air. So now that's why I mentioned being an athlete or when you're sleeping, you get the most restful sleep when your mouth is sealed and your tongue is up in your upper mandibular tract and you're breathing through your nose, because it's a constant flow of air and it's full and you're not gasping and you're not cutting off your circulation. The same for athletes as they're training. Imagine you're running a marathon and your nose is clogged and you just can't breathe. So you're breathing with your mouth is drying out, you're just doesn't feel well, has that cotton mouth feeling. But when your mouth is closed and you're breathing through your nose and expanding your lungs and giving yourself more oxygen, the right oxygen, you're constantly fueled. You won't have a dry mouth. You're less apt to illness because nothing is coming in the incorrect way.
I love that. That's such a good explanation. So our environment has nitrogen and oxygen, among other gases, but that's what's in our air. And when we breathe it in, nitric oxide then is the mixing of the oxygen and the nitrogen, which then through your nose hairs breaks it apart in your lungs so that you can absorb it into your blood cells better. How did I do to summarize you?
You did so well.
Perfect. There you go,
And
parents.
if there's anyone out there who's a hiker perhaps or goes to high altitude, and you've seen those little tanks, the minis, it's on the go nitric oxide that you can take. A lot of supplemental gummies today have things that absorb it into your blood as well. But the purest way is truly training yourself. And it's so mental. A lot of people, and even if you think to those days when you're like stuffed up from allergies or you're getting over a cold and you just feel miserable because you're not getting the oxygen you need and your mouth feels dry and you're thirsty, it's because your nasal passage is blocked up and you're now not getting this nitric oxide. And ironically, people are like, well, how does this all link to myo and speech? It does, because to talk, you need air.
Yes.
So.
Okay, let's talk about the link between having nitric oxide in your body and your thinking.
Oh, yes. So anytime an individual, okay, if God forbid you were not able to get oxygen, oxygen goes to the brain through the flow of the blood. If you can't get it, you're risking a decay in that area because it needs it to function. Imagine oxygen being the same as you drinking water. If you don't get it, you become dehydrated, you can risk collapsing. So that's the same thing. If your brain is foggy and doesn't have the flow that it needs, that oxygen is fueling your bloodstream and it's going to get your memory going and your cognition working and your synapses going. If it's not there, unfortunately, it can cause damage to the brain, and then that causes damage to our functionality as individuals.
Yeah, and that's so huge as our brains are developing for our little kids.
Yes.
As you're talking, I'm finding myself thinking about breathing through my nose.
This is wonderful. And every person and family that we work with in this way, they will tell me if they hear me in the session or later at home when they're carrying it over, they're like, I told my relatives today and I saw somebody and they weren't breathing right. So I told them. I'm always thinking, once you cannot unsee it and you can't unthink it. And I'm constantly reminding my kids, I go as far as several deep inhalations through the day. It's really great to regulate your nervous system, get your brain back filled and fueled with that oxygen you need. But I met a woman one time, and she told me, hey, I set an alarm 4 times a day, and I really allow myself to relax this way. And this is all connected, your nerves, your brain, this breathing. But literally, her alarm will go off 4 times a day, morning, noon, night, and before bed. And she does a deep in through the nose. So holds it a few seconds. And then when you release, the shoulders are down.
Good. And you release through your mouth when you did it.
You release through your mouth in that one. Yep.
So in your nose, hold it a few seconds, release out the mouth.
And this resets, you spoke about the brain, it resets your whole brain. If you're carrying stress in your shoulders and your upper neck from the day, it immediately like melts them down. It provides a different feeling. It allows you to fill up with that air. And you're not going to hold your breath to keep that air in. The whole purpose of putting it through your nose is that more stays in. So you're still going to release it, but you've held it, you've kind of reset your mind, and you moved on. And it feels so good. So many times I'm in a stressful situation, or like I said, with my kids before bed, if I see that they can't wind down, we do that as an exercise, 3 deep ones like that in a row. And I'm telling you, it really resets them.
Fantastic. So there's the first bullet point for what parents can do. A deep inhalation through the nose, hold it a little bit, exhale, and repeat a few times.
That's right.
Okay, so now let's imagine that there's a parent listening that thinks, oh, well, my kid sleeps with their mouth hanging open.
Yes.
What would you advise to that parent?
So there are several steps you have to take on the onset when you see that. First, if your child's nose is not clogged, then you're in the safety and you're just seeing, okay, they could breathe through their nose. You can gently try to close their mouth just to train at home before you start this whole process. If they do it, pay attention because you don't want them to not have air. So if they can do it, they're trainable. And then you have to just remind them every day a little bit. However,
but during waking hours, not during sleep hours.
Well, if you noticed it in the sleep, you could just try. That's what I do sometimes. So I kind of manipulate, shut their lips, but their nose has to be clear. You cannot just come shut their lips. Well, they'll open it right away. It's a, instinct.
Yeah.
But if you want to formally, and you do notice if they're chewing with and they're have this odd posturing, you need to start checking things out. So your first visit will actually be to an ENT, which is a ear, nose, and throat professional, because you're going to want to see, is there a deviated septum? Like, what are these other underlying reasons? So that you can then take that information and bring it to the speech or myo appointment. Because people will come and I'll ask them, well, did you visit an ENT? No, I haven't. It's hard for me as a speech therapist. I don't know what's happening in their nose. I haven't put, my camera in there. So it would be very helpful for them to bring that information. Once we see that in the speech therapy session assessment, the first thing I do is evaluate if there's a tongue tie. So the child shows me their, mouth, and I take a look and I talk to the parent and I talk to the child. I see if there's a tongue thrust, which means they're constantly sticking their tongue in their teeth. And that will change your position. I check out, I do a full oral evaluation. If in fact, I do see a tongue tie, depending on the age of the child, I talk about the options with the family. So they can go to a pediatric dentist and they can laser cut the tongue tie if that's what they feel is good. And then they can come back and get therapy and we move on from there. And now the tongue tie is loose. And now I'm teaching them the steps to be with this new tongue that's released, where to put it, how to keep the lip seal, because similar to an articulation disorder or something very related to memory in speech, you have to work backwards with this dysfunction as well. It's really a habit. They're so used to using this because they needed to, make up for them being unable to breathe through their nose. It became the way that they breathe. It's a learned habit, unfortunately. And it often stems from allergies or the tongue tie or just a habit. So once I myself and the family have met to determine if it's a tongue tie, if it's not. If they don't want to do a laser cut and the child has functioned and they're 7 years old and they're managing with a tongue tie, I wouldn't recommend cutting it. We could just do some exercises that will help to lengthen the frenulum. That's the one underneath. You'll notice people as well out there. Some people refer to it as a frenulum. That's in speech language. A frenum is more dental. I interchange the two, but
I was going to ask that question because I've always known it as a frenulum, and I was going to ask you, but I wasn't there yet. Thank you.
I beat you to it.
You did.
But it's very important before you make any decisions, because with the surgeries and with going to an ENT, you're looking at your nose, you're looking at your tonsils, your adenoids. If the child has allergies or is getting sick often, myofunction, the therapy I'm speaking about, will help. However, most physicians recommend, if the child is constantly sick and can't breathe and they have enlarged adenoids, to remove them. Those are decisions that are made with the family independent of the speech therapist. And my recommendation when I take a look, and I always look to see, I can take a look and see and feel to better understand what I'm looking at when they come in. However, they determine what they're doing. You want to remove it, that's on you. I don't make any recommendation in that way, but I do work prior to those surgeries and post, because if you get an adenoid tonsil removal or a frenectomy and you do not go to myofunction therapy, you've only done 50%. If you do get all of those things and go to myo, you're now making it full circle, and we can help you learn with the new body that you have, really, because it's different and you're going to use the same old memory on a new, function. You can't do that. And people really need to understand that tying it all in is so important to go to the therapy after, so we can reteach your child how to breathe, how to speak, how to function without, adenoids and enlarged tonsils that they've had for all these years.
Yeah. That makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I've taken some notes here and I love this. So you've made it clear. So here's the first 3 things that I have for parents, because I like to recap, because I want every parent to hear this episode and think, I know exactly what to do. And I also know this is super, super common. So first, you've got your deep nose breathes that we described. Then, if it doesn't change, you have the parents take their child to the ENT, where there's going to be a physical evaluation. And then those results come back to you, and you're going to do a full oral and functional evaluation to check out what else is going on.
Absolutely. That's right.
I love it.
I wanted to ask you about your grandson. What's going on with him?
Okay, so he's 2, and since he was very little, he had been sleeping with his mouth hanging open and snoring and all of that. And then his tonsils and adenoids were big, really big. And but also he had a tongue tie. And so they did get it cut. And then I helped out with what to do.
Yeah.
And and then eventually they did some holistic health things. Instead of taking out the tonsils and adenoids, they decided to go the route of looking at his immune system, and how do I help his immune system to be
biohacking.
Yep, it is. It's biohacking. And my daughter did a really good job. And I will admit that, she's younger and a little bit more risky in that way. And I was like, oh no, they need to come out. But I kept my mouth shut. I didn't tell her that, but that's honestly what I was thinking at the time. I wanted her to be right so badly, because it's healthier. You have tonsils and adenoids for a reason. And when they're functioning properly and doing what they're supposed to do, it's better to keep the organs you were born with.
Absolutely.
So, I was hesitant, though, as much as I do believe in natural health in all ways. I just found myself getting scared. But she was confident, and I always advocate you go with a mama's gut. And so I just
I preach by this. I'm so happy you said that. Go with the mama's gut. I like that so much.
Yes. And so I kept my mouth shut and just waited and watched and prayed. And she was right. She was able to do a lot of different holistic kind of practices, kind of like even breathing is really a holistic practice.
Yes.
And then the swelling came down, and she did base lymph drainage things and like all kinds of stuff. We both looked up a lot online and implemented lots of things. I don't need to take our episode in a different direction here, but then
Yeah.
they did come down, and they continue to come down, and she continues to do this type of work with him.
So he's doing well. Thank
Yes,
goodness.
yes. And
Okay. Well,
the
I'm so
interesting
happy.
things is that the improvement was slow but consistent, and it still is
Yes.
continuing to improve
And
because
he's growing, and that's important to remember in these
yes,
times too.
yes,
As they grow, things will change, but continuing things that work, protocols that work is definitely key.
yeah. And she actually
Consistency is
started when he
key.
was one. She started when he was
Yeah.
one. It just kind of
See?
the swollen tonsils hit kind of a peak just before he turned 2, and now he's doing great at 2 years and 4 months.
Well, if she needs anything, I'm here for her as well.
Yes, yes, you are an expert in this part of speech pathology. I am not. Like I haven't done a lot. I mean, I've had students with tongue tie, I've worked with it, but I wouldn't consider myself the expert that you are in this because you actually have a certification in this.
Yes, I do. But you have the heart, so I know anything that we as speechies do. If you have the heart, we'll always figure it out for the
We
families.
we do. We do.
Yeah.
And I really do believe, like you said too, is that when you listen to the gut that is happening for
Yeah.
mama,
Yeah.
they're right. Very
I
seldom
know.
is that wrong. Yeah, we have to listen to that. Fantastic. What else would you say about myofunction or tongue tie? What else besides sleeping and the mouth hanging open? What else would you say, like licking the lips or whatever else? What do you
Yes,
want to
yes.
bring out to tell our parents that they can look for to tell them that they need to go get help?
Other signs would be if a child has poor sleep habits or are waking with bags, or even if they are sleeping well, but they have darkening under their eyes, which could mean that they don't have enough oxygen. There's not enough blood flow going on, which is causing a young person to have these dark bags. It's not, a common, it should not look that way. And facial deformity can happen if their face starts to droop and be long. Unfortunately, if you're repetitively in the same position, so open mouth, your mouth is going to drain long, and you start to look a little bit like a skeleton shape. It just look a long, worn face because the jaw is open and overworked. So those are some things to look out for. And also behaviorally, if you're starting to notice some of these other signs and the child is having difficult behaviorally, especially 5 and under, that's definitely work on some myofunction therapy.
I love it. That is very clear for our parents. I'm taking a little bit of notes here because I do
Sure.
have families right now that I'm talking
Yeah.
to about that, and you have added information to what I know. That's fantastic. Now, what can moms and dads do at home besides close the little lips when they're sleeping?
There's lots of exercises available. There are certain straws on the market that are specific to the breathability and the way that you're supposed to close your mouth. If you can't afford those or you don't want to get into that yet, you can literally pick up some plastic straws. It won't give you the relaxed lip seal. You'll be in more of a pursed position because most people, when they drink with a straw, they go, they like suck the straw up.
Mm-hmm.
However, getting that mouth to be shut and then breathing with your nose, that's already such a big step. They do sell these stickers that you can wear that do have it for children. They have a hole. Some people wear the mouth seal for the night, adults, that doesn't have a hole. You have to be a very, very strong nasal breather for that. But for the children to practice, it's just around it's kind of like a kinesio tape almost. It's like a thicker tape that keeps the lips in a downward posture, like around.
Okay.
But it has a hole. So it can still get some air, but it starts to bring that structuring back to the center. So that's important. And then a slew of exercises. I mean, you can literally be in the car and you can play games. Cheek puffs.
Okay.
Who can let me hold our breath for 5 seconds and then shout stop sign, little games to encourage them to stop, close their mouth, breathe with their nose. Oh, then they're done. Stop sign. Or blowing bubbles. requires that air, and then you have to release it. So how else are you breathing but through your nose? So lots of little tips and tricks. And if anybody's interested, you can message me and I will provide more. But there's so many fun, easy ways, especially for the 5 and under population, which is the harder population to train in this area because they're young, they're small. And also tongue clicks is my favorite. And that one's really easy because it's fun and kids like to practice that. So that's a great starting place.
I love it. These are great things parents can do just on the go. And that's
on the go.
Do it.
And everybody's on the go. That's reality.
That is reality. Thank you. All right. So now when I close my interviews, I often like to ask guests, what would you leave for parents? Let's say that a parent is in the car and they are driving. They only can remember one thing while they're so busy pulling in kids and groceries and whatever else. What would you say is the number one thing that you would like to leave parents thinking that they can do or to watch for?
I have so much to say. One thing is so hard, especially just in my
Okay, just 3 things or less.
Well, firstly, I know we didn't get to dive too much, but I did want to talk in myo. I'm not only talking about myofunction, but I'm a very client-centered person from speech therapy. And I feel like why this works in Kidology and for myself as a practitioner is that the child-centered way, and it includes the parent's voice in the therapy. And that's something I want to remember. Parents, voice what's happening. Don't come somewhere and mask. Oh yeah, I just wanted to check it out. No, you came here because you're concerned. Tell the truth. And I want to help you. So that's so important for us to be honest. So that's really big if someone is coming to seek help in this area.
Actually voice and say it out loud what it is.
So important. And I do also want to say for myofunction, if your kiddo is showing any signs, you have to remember that what we're doing now with this work is to avoid future sleep apnea or to avoid from the tongue thrust comes a lisp. You don't want your child's speech to develop this way. So we want to put an X on those things as we see them, and it takes time to reverse it. So if there's any questionable doubt that you have, whether your child said something silly today and then repeated that, and then you think they're just babbling on, they may just not be able to make those sounds because they have a tongue tie. So it's worth checking them out and be honest with your provider when you meet with them.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And I love the name Kidology. Tell me, before you go, tell me what the source of that is.
So 10 lovely years ago, a decade, I've been in business a decade. 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to open a business. And I had this Steno notes, which is just that yellow notepad. And I was sitting with my mom and I'm like, I need to come up with a name. And I was writing millions of names because I was a creative writer. Like and I'm writing names. And then one of the top 3 was Kidology. I don't remember the other ones. And we were like, wow, like I'm fusing kids and biology. So, Kidology. And the name stuck. And I love it. I'm so proud of it.
I love that too. I think it's great. And ology means the study of. And
the study
of kids. So when I saw your title, I thought that is fabulous. All right. There are so many things we could talk about. And prior to us beginning this, we had multiple conversations on different topics that were all very valid. So maybe we'll have you back again someday. But for this episode, to focus on the tongue tie, and thank you so much for doing that for our families. This is a very important topic, and it is super, super common. And I love that you want parents to come in right away, because what I'm sure we agree on is the earlier you address it, the faster and easier it is to correct. Doesn't matter what it is.
Beautifully said. Couldn't agree more.
To follow up with Luba or to sign up for Parent Group or any of the other details that we talked about during this episode, see the show notes for links. Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.